New Delhi today is turned into the very center of global diplomacy as Vladimir Putin is landing for his first India visit in years together, viewers. Now, this Modi-Putin summit is not just about ceremony, it's not just ceremonial, it's about recalibrating a decades-old partnership for today's reality. Now, at the very top of the table lies defense. India is in fact looking to push its modernization drive all the way from exploring the S-500 missile shield to do more clarity on the Su-57 5th-gen fighter program. Meanwhile, energy, industry, space and agriculture will round off the conversation with New Delhi keen on long-term oil security, new investments and tech sharing that actually delivers on the ground. Meanwhile, civil nuclear cooperation and counter-terror coordination will also get a fresh push. Meanwhile, my colleague Vishal Vivek joins us from Bharat Mandapam in national capital Delhi. Vishal, what's the sense of anticipation that's building? What are the security arrangements that have taken place, and what can we expect over the next 2 odd days or so?
Well, Arjun, Delhi has turned into a fortress. I am at one of the places where Vladimir Putin, the Russian president, is set to visit tomorrow. I'm right now at Bharat Mandapam, and I'll show around what kind of arrangements have been done to welcome Mr. Putin. Today also we have a set of programs. You can see it says sell to Russia new opportunities for Indian businesses. That is one of the main points of contention when Russian president meets our Prime Minister Modi, that the skilled workers that are lacking on the Russian side, they could be they could be attracting more Indian workers now because they lack the skilled workers component on the Russian side. That is where the business leaders from across the globe, mainly from Russia, they have congregated. I'll show you what kind of arrangements have been done. This convention hall has at least 1,000 occupants, at least 500 occupants at the moment. They've all gathered here from across India, and they are all waiting for the top Russian ministers who would be here any moment. It would be a long session. They would be, talking about several things that we have already talked about, such as, investments in Indian companies. We've heard from reports that Russian fertilizers could be sent to India now in, huge chunks. So these are some of the, main things that will be talked about when the business leaders come here, and also some Russian ministers are also expected to be here around 2:30 when that big event starts.
Right, thank you so much for getting us the latest from Bharat Mandapam there, where a lot of events have also been planned on the very sidelines of this all-important Modi-Putin summit. Meanwhile, viewers, when the chips were down, India did not stand alone. In Operation Sindoor, an old friend indeed step in it did with steel, speed and firepower alike. There's no points for guessing here who this partner really is. So quickly, let's break down how Russia's decades-deep partnership powered India's battlefield edge.
When the storm hit Delhi, Moscow didn't blink. Because some friendships never fade. They forged themselves in fire, and in Operation Sindoor, that iron bond showed its strength again. Russia, India's all-weather friend, a partnership older than most of the systems it built. The results were crystal clear on the front line. There were pinpoint strikes as silent shields defended Indian territory. All this while jets roared with intent above. At the tip of the spear was the BrahMos, and during Operation Sindoor, it spoke with devastating accuracy. Targets deep behind enemy lines hit with surgical precision, fast, fearless, and totally unmatched. Above the battlefield, another giant stood guard. The S-400, a shield of radars, a wall of electronic eyes, drones and incoming threats intercepted, blinded, forced to turn back or be turned to scrap metal. And then came the Sukhois, the aircraft India knows as its own. Russian by origin and Indian by production, their strikes were sharp and decisive. But the story runs deeper than one operation, from historically being buyer and seller to now becoming co-creators. Manuals have transformed into shared blueprints and imports into joint technology. BrahMos proved it, the S-400 underlined it, and Sukhoi has stamped it. New collaborations are reinforcing it. And now the leaders meet again in New Delhi with the message as clear as daylight. This bond is no fair weather friendship. It's tested, trusted, and has been hardened by the sands of time. While Operation Sindoor will be remembered for its precision, it will also be remembered for a partnership that has held strong for decades together. An unrivaled tale of two nations with one massive battlefield edge forged together.
Over in Washington, viewers, Donald Trump now says his advisors believe Vladimir Putin wants to end the war with Ukraine. That's correct. US President Trump has said Vladimir Putin wants to end the Ukraine war even after US envoys left Moscow without a breakthrough earlier on Monday. Now, Trump says he believes Putin is open for ending the nearly 4-year-old war in Ukraine. His envoy Steve Witkoff and son-in-law Jared Kushner held hours of talks with Mr. Putin inside the Kremlin, around 5 hours of talks at that, but both sides say no compromise has been reached as of now. Moscow, however, called parts of the US plan unacceptable, including proposals for Ukraine to give up territory in the eastern Donbas region. Now, still, Trump has described the meeting as very good, going on to say that his team came away with the impression that Mr. Putin would like to end the war. Now, the envoys will now meet Ukraine's top negotiator Rustem Umerov in Florida for follow-up talks. Meanwhile, here's Trump for you.
In Ukraine, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner were there last night with Vladimir Putin. Can you give us an update about those talks? It sounds from what the Kremlin is saying that they're not going to compromise. Can you tell us what you've...
I don't know what the Kremlin's doing. I can tell you that they had a reasonably good meeting with President Putin. We're going to find out. It's a war that should have never been started. It's a war, if I were president, we had a rigged election. If I were president, that war would have never happened. It's a terrible thing. But I thought they had a very good meeting yesterday with President Putin. We'll see what happens. It's, when I was in this office and I talked about no cards, I said, you have no cards. That was the time to settle. I thought that would have been a much better time to settle. But they, in their wisdom, decided not to do that. They have a lot of things against them right now. But you have President Putin had a very good meeting yesterday with Jared Kushner and with Steve Witkoff. What comes out of that meeting, I can't tell you, because it does take two to tango. You know, Ukraine, I think we have something pretty well worked out with them. They're very satisfied, considering. But the sad part is, if I were president, no war would have ever happened. They would have had 100% of their territory. Nothing would have happened.
Well, we stay with Washington, where the US House Democrats have released a large set of new photos and videos from Jeffrey Epstein's private island in the US Virgin Islands. These images on your screens right now, viewers, show bedrooms, a room with a dentist chair, masks on a wall, and a chalkboard with the words power and deception. Now, there's also a no trespassing sign and a phone with a partly redacted speed dial list. Lawmakers say that these files, provided after a subpoena, only after a subpoena last month, are meant to increase public transparency. Investigators, however, note that the images do not reveal any new people connected to Epstein's crimes, but they do bring renewed attention to the case as the public, in fact, keeps on waiting for more documents promised by Donald Trump and the White House.